you negotiate inspections while you're still making the original offer? Yeah, you can set the expectations, not only up with your buyer, but with the seller's agent. How many times has somebody said something to the similar, hey, he said the offer's coming over, and here's the deal. We know that it might be a little thinner than what the seller wanted, and yet when they do the inspections, we're really only going after the stuff we couldn't see. Like, we're not gonna worry about a door latch being loose or a faucet dripping, and yes, we are gonna worry very much if we find out the foundation's moving more than we thought. We're gonna worry about the furnace and it's got CO2 leaking out the back. So you can set those expectations. Now, I don't know where you can put that in writing, but you can set that expectation with the other agent right from the beginning. Make sense? Cool, awesome. So let's go to, let's just look at these 25 tactics right here. Does anyone have a favorite, by the way?
Mine is silence.
Silence. So tell me more about that. That's mine, by the way.
Just kind of like when you're presenting the seller the offer, like I know when I was first starting, I'd be like, and then it's this and this, but I think we should do this, and I just kept talking and talking and talking, and then not letting them like process. So definitely, even when you're sitting at the table, hey, what do you think your home is? What were you thinking about listing your home at? And just stop. Like don't start it. Let them like say. And so silence can be your best friend too. Even if you're negotiating like an offer in between a buyer and seller, like don't be unprofessional and not time with the essence,
right.
But you know, sometimes you got to make them sweat it out a little bit.
Exactly.
In a professional manner. Don't say that, of course, you told me never to answer agents' phone calls or anything like that, but sometimes you gotta let it sweat it out. So time can be your best friend sometimes in a real estate transaction.
I'm a huge fan of silence, and you know how I feel about answering the phone. Answer your phones. And yet, if I'm in a negotiation with Clarissa as the other agent, and it's in that fast mode, like every once in a while you get those fast things, I'm gonna slow it down by letting it go to my voicemail. Because if she's that anxious to be getting back to me, you know, over and over and over again, I'm gonna see what she says on the voicemail. I want to take that knowledge and just process it.
I think, and you can use that also in a listing presentation. The one thing that we do when we do a listing presentation, either one or both of us, whichever it is, usually it's both of us, we will get to the very end of all the negotiating for the listing. And the very last thing one of us will say is, we just have one other question. We kind of wait. Okay, what is it? Will you sign with us today? And then pure silence.
Asking for
Says
business.
nothing. And it really can put them in that position to, if they like what they've seen, it's easy to say yes.
So I would write down what Jim just said right there. For agents out there that don't feel they're getting the results they should be getting, really listen to yourself and pay attention. Are you asking for the sale?
Quite honestly, you should probably have a hint of asking for the sale throughout your whole conversation.
About, the trial closes,
yeah.
It's all along the way.
Yeah.
Well, and the old saying is, the first one that speaks loses, okay? That's a good one to write down.
Don't
First
blame.
one that speaks loses. So if I ask a closing question, you know, would 355 work on this transaction? I don't want to open that door back up and go, but I understand if you think that's too low, blah, 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 and I start chatting, ask the question, and then just like Jim said, be quiet. You know.
And also, also in silence, don't like back yourself out of it. Like once they say yes, don't continue your talk. Just say, yeah, okay, you're gonna sign right here and check that box. Don't like, because I'll talk myself right out of it.
I can't tell you how many times I've worked with salespeople or like they're selling to me, and I'm like, I already said I'd spend the money. Stop.
I say don't stop. Yeah, don't sell what's sold.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things, one of my other favorite negotiating tactics for years, and so this really resonated with me in this Never Split the Difference book, is the whole chapter on no. Is no a scary word for most salespeople? What if you look at it as like, good, now we can get to what the matter really is. Because once you hear no, now you can just say, why? Why? And they'll start telling you why. And when they're telling you why, in your head you're going, important, 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 important. Now you can go back and you can structure a counter to make those things important to them while still getting the things that are important to you. Does that make sense? So no only leads you, so if you took nothing else out of this, besides the two things I said, if you took nothing else out of this, I would say learn to like no, because no is what's actually helping you get closer to getting the deal done. So when Janet, when I say, hey, are you ready to sign the buyer's agency agreement so I can be your fiduciary, after I've explained it to her, and she says, no. Well, why not? Maybe I'm gonna find out, though, that she's got like 3 other agents, especially if you get the investment game. Well, I've already got these other 3 agents out there looking as well, and I don't wanna, okay, well, why am I gonna be spending my time with you?
Right.
So with
Might be easy.
the investors, I like to do with them is that I say, okay, fine, I don't need to be your designated buyer agent, like overall. But if you want me to look at any house for you, run any numbers, I need you to sign my house.
There you go.
So that I can get those.
Now, when you're out showing, they'll always ask you an agent question, right? Like they said, no, I want to be your trainer. Okay, fantastic. What do you think we could get it for? Can't tell you. And I just smile. They'll be like, oh, it's because you're not my fiduciary. It's Kansas, it's brokerage law. I can't tell you. Now, when you're ready to be my client, then we can do that. Well, I just don't believe I should be in 6 months with every house in Kansas City. Okay, so let's make it on this house. Let's make it on the houses we see today. We can do an exclusive buyer's agency agreement good for 24 hours. Now I can be of value to you. And then we can extend it if we need to.
And now that you know what houses you wanna see, all you have to do is hire me to show them to you.
Yeah. That's it. It's negotiating all along the way, and then the power of no for you is, I can't. I'm a transaction broker. I can't answer that question for you. I'd love to, Raphael. Nothing I want to do more than give you my opinions, because I have some really strong opinions about this, and yet you've tied my hands at this point. Anybody else done things like that?
Thank you. Here's a pen, all right.
Yeah.
Ready, Chris?
Well, we can do DocuSign right over the phone now, right? Because if you're smart, you already had it all listed out anyway. Boom, we're not DocuSign. Gotcha. Sorry, I still use DocuSign. I'm old.
Me too.
All right, any other tips or tricks that somebody wants to share here in the last 10 minutes that you feel would be really good, Brenda?
I always try to make good friends with the agent I'm working with. We all have a common goal. And one of my favorites that happened one time is I had a seller, and we were so close, neither side should let the deal go, honestly. And I told the buyer's agent, my seller's stuck here, he won't budge, and if you can get this done, I hope you let me buy you a beer because you're my hero. What do you think he did? He got it done. And he worked harder to do it. He had something to prove.
We're gonna let that ego he had just run.
By the way, that's the good guy on here, being the good guy. Wow, I really feel for you. I know how hard it is going to be for you to sell this, but my guy just won't budge it up. Perfect with it, thank you. Anybody else got any tips they like to go back to over and over, Clarissa?
A good one is, how do you expect me to do that?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah, like when, I don't know, you can use that in all sorts of different ways, but asking someone, how do you expect me to do that, puts it back on them, and then they just start spewing.
Yeah, or how do you want me to do that? Yeah. Good.
I think that's a great question. I don't think I've ever necessarily asked that question, but I heard that not too long ago from somewhere else too.
Well, in that book, it talks about they
That's
couldn't get through to the drug dealer, and they kept asking him questions, and they couldn't get through, and finally they put the wife on the phone, and he said, well, I need this money like right now, and she said, how do you expect me to do that? I have to sell my car or this, and I would need time, so how do you expect me to do that? And they were like, they let him down.
I knew I heard it recently. Yeah, that's a good point.
Very good.
And then the other thing is getting to that's right. So he makes the case in that book over and over and over again that yes is the worst thing you can hear. What you want is that's right. Because if he's saying yes, he might just be getting rid of you. Yes, yes, yes. We've all been in those situations, right? And yet when Jim earlier told the story about, hey, you've done this with your doctor, you've done this with your lawyer, you've done this with your CPA, and now I'm asking you to do it with me. You've set up, you've related right there. And so they go in their head, yeah, that's right. So when you get to that's right, that's when you know they're ready to sign, that they're ready to do it.
Coaching buyers too into making good offers. I mean, the person wants to ask for $40,000 off on a $200,000 house, and there's nothing to back that reason. Set the expectation, you know, if you give a serious offer, you get a serious response.
Yeah, go, I loved always talking about the psychology of the first offer to the buyers. That was in every offer situation. We started with, let's go to the psychology of the offer. You know, you can, and then now we have the psychology of the sellers, right? We have people putting $200,000 houses on the MLS at 180 because they know they're gonna get 210, you know, by doing that. There's a psychology behind all of this. Like, I understand you wanna come in a little bit low, Matt, and yet what I'm gonna tell you, there's that one point in there somewhere where the wall drops and they just say, this guy's not even a serious buyer. So you wanna be sure you don't go to that pivot point, because once you get there, it's hard to get that seller to really engage, no matter how many times Clarissa says, give us a counter, you know, because the ego, even though it's against their best interest, their ego gets involved.
Some of you aren't old enough to remember this, or maybe you're history students and you do, but in the 90s, Bill Clinton went to Ireland and negotiated the Irish peace talks there. And the one thing, we were in Ireland a few years ago, and the different, we got the side of both parties, the Protestants and the Catholics in Northern Ireland. And both said he was their hero because he came in and he said to them, he said, somebody's got to give here and here. You don't have to give everything, but you have to give something.
Right.
So if everyone gives something, then you can get to the center. And so I've used that example several times on negotiating back and forth with people and talk to the agent.
That's a great point.
So
it's also just letting them give you all of their reasons for things. What does that do? It takes the energy out of those things. Like when somebody's, like if your kids are ever upset or somebody's mad at you, just, we don't want to answer that phone sometimes, that customer service phone, and yet if just by listening quietly, if you listen to somebody, they will begin to answer their own questions, but it takes the energy out of the situation. And when you're negotiating, if you just keep going back, why is this important, Jim? Why is this important? It can begin to take the energy. They begin to release it from a third-party point of view.
it might just be emotional.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to highly, highly recommend that you continue this journey for negotiations. First of all, it's never over. Second of all, you can go to, this is a great resource, by the way, PDF, or you can print it off if you want to. And then if you just like do a YouTube search for real estate negotiation tips, I couldn't find the bottom. I mean, there's like 16,000 pages on it. And what I'm going to say is, be careful who you choose to listen to, though, because there's a lot of questionable stuff I saw on YouTube as well. So you always want to be, you come from the Y4C2Ts, win-win, integrity, come from curiosity. Jennifer?
The old mirror match is still good too, and you know,
Oh.
when you're in the listing appointment and the shaking of the head positively and.
If you're not sure what mirroring matching is, get that book or the Audible and really listen to it. And he has done study after study after study that if he just sits there and repeats everything you say back to him in a kind way with it just, you know, nodding everything, he wins most of the deals just by doing that. I mean, right? I mean, it's the whole mirroring and tone. Yes?
And I'll often mirror and match when things are going my way, and then I'll flip it the other way. And as soon as people start talking to me about how they're gonna want this, I change. And usually, whatever form they're gonna send me either doesn't ever come over, or they ask for way less than they told me they were gonna ask for on the phone.
Right.
So
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's almost like a magician's trick. Matt?
Yeah, again, the book, it's where they had the study of the servers at the restaurants. The servers that were really nice to the customers, and oh, that's a great choice, et cetera, made something ridiculous, like 80% less than the service that just repeated back the order.
You know what, one of the very things
more,
they
yes.
always say, that's part of that study was that, or at least the one I read about, was that the one thing when the server comes up to you and you say to them, hey, I sure appreciate that. Well, you know what the number one answer from them is?
no problem.
Is no problem. But what should it be?
My pleasure.
My pleasure.
pleasure.
My pleasure.
Their tips are much higher when they say my pleasure.
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Any last thoughts?
I got a last thought.
Okay.
Does anyone in the room like to be sold? Where you feel the pressure, you feel the salesperson pushing in? How many like that?
Yeah.
Just me?
Yeah.
Okay. So the assumption close, for me, is probably the best close I've ever used. And it's just simply filling out the paperwork. Okay, you have a contract. If I had to give you your job description as a realtor in front of a listing appointment or in front of a selling appointment, it's filling out the contract, right? You gotta get all the blanks filled out, you gotta ask for the order, you gotta get a signature, so it's pretty simple. But as you do that, you're assuming the sale, okay? I'm not talking you into selling your house with me. I'm not, begging you to do whatever. But you called me here for a reason.
The assumption close.
I'm not here to waste my time. You're not here to waste your time. You want a salesperson to help you. You don't want some weak little kid that's gonna waste your 6 months of your life. But so I'm gonna assume, Chris, so, what's the address you want us to send the check or whatever, and I just start filling in the blanks, and people will close it themselves.
Well,
You
you
don't
say
have to say, will you buy?
The assumption close is the natural extension of a needs analysis done well. Because it's not really even a close.
It's not a close.
This is the natural extension of what you want, and I'm gonna help you get what you want.
One of the best salesmen that ever worked for me used to say, does that sound good? It was the craziest thing. I'd see him filling out the paperwork, and he goes, that sound good? Does that sound good? Well, after a while, these people were like, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, great, just sign right here. And it was done. He didn't have to sell it, They enjoyed, but the point is, you make it easy for somebody to buy. People don't like to
Now,
be sold.
make it easy to buy, yes.
I was gonna say, I think an aha I had was one of the first statements you made, is that we are the calm in everyone's storm. And I think that's something that's taken me a really long time to learn, but I think it's really, really important that my tone and my demeanor over the phone in the storm, I
Absolutely.
need to be the rock.
Yeah, don't put yourself into the position of being the drama. Get your ego out of the deal.
Yeah, don't email me back. Are
You're
you
my
serious?
rock.
A million question marks. Just say, I'll give it to the seller. Thank you.
Have a great day, guys. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Pardon me? Well, it was just the piece that you saw from there, but it was still good to have feedback and, but yeah, it hasn't closed still for sale, but it's the buyer's dead, so. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, we were talking about, I know, the church stuff too, so we'll find out from you. Remember I said my friends out there. Yes. Start saying it. Right? Keep it going. Build momentum.
Isn't that right? I know, I think that.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
Maybe
I'm hoping that. See you.
I do most of my business in Jersey side.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Just have to get it cleared up there. And I didn't even know that.
I was thinking we should come take a tour of it.
Get you somewhere.
Right, right. Well, they were
Are you gonna take your drugs today? By the way, no, it has a hog on it. Pig, is that a barbecue? Is that a barbecue shirt? It's a.
Oh, yes, yes. Get back after her. Either way.
Very good.
Hi.